Welcome to the Milk Bottle E-Commerce Show, brought to you by Milk Bottle Labs, one of the world's top-rated accredited Shopify e-commerce experts. Founder Keith Matthews interviews e-commerce professionals, app developers and entrepreneurs to share as much digital knowledge and e-commerce tips and tricks as possible. This podcast is kindly supported by Rewind.io, the leading backup solution for Shopify, BigCommerce, Trello and more. Let's just say it's the cheapest insurance policy you'll ever get for your Shopify store and all your valuable data. Simply go to rewind.io/milk bottle to get your first month for free. Now let's hear from Keith.
Hey folks, today I am chatting to Brendan Hughes. Brendan is the CEO of Optily, which is a solution for Shopify merchants to manage and optimize their advertising spend. Prior to Optily, Brendan was Chief Digital Officer at Independent News and Media, where he was responsible for digital strategy across the media group. And for our international listeners, Independent News and Media was one of the largest publishing groups in Ireland for many, many years. Over a career spanning 20 years, he has led digital strategies for VHI Healthcare, FBD Insurance and Boyle Sports, amongst others. When Brendan is not thinking about the media, he sails a laser dinghy in Dublin Bay, where he is the class captain of the local fleet. Brendan, welcome.
Hey Keith, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
The most interesting piece of that intro, Brendan, was the fact that you sail. It's probably one of the more fun things I do with my days. Is that something that you started at a very, very young age?
No, I'm from the country. So I after I came to college in Dublin, and after I kind of started working, I started sailing. What I sail is the laser is. It's the boat that Annalise Murphy won silver in Rio for Ireland.
Very good,
So
yeah.
it's a
Olympic winner.
It's a one person. Yeah, so I have aspirations, you know, but not quite Olympic. But it's a one person kind of dinghy, and it's the most popular dinghy in the world because it's the most flexible and affordable as well. So it means of all ages and all kind of body shapes can get out and have fun in it and do some racing.
A friend of mine was involved in sailing in Bermuda, so I know a little. Okay, so does that bring you abroad? Is there international races, or is it purely a local sport?
So it is. When you say the word Bermuda, you instantly paint a picture of sailing, which is not the world I live in.
Well, there was lasers there. That's all I remember.
Yeah, no, fair enough. No, it is an international fleet or an international boat because it's Olympic class, and so yeah, I haven't been abroad at international competitions. I was doing Irish and regional competitions. I have introduced my son to do it, and he's currently in Texas competing at the World Championships. So yeah,
wow.
It's it is for Irish people. We're quite good at it actually at this particular sport. So two teenagers recently won the World Championships on behalf of Ireland in the boat.
Very good.
There's quite a good caliber of sailing goes on in this. We're surrounded by water, so we should be good at it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great sport, which I'm not into, or I was never connected to it, but who knows, someday. Brendan, we met because you have a Shopify app called Optily. But before we get into that, in terms of your career, I just mentioned there in the intro that you were with Independent News and Media. So for our international listeners, Independent News and Media was one of the top one or two publishing houses in Ireland for many, many years, and was the major owner of that was Tony O'Reilly, who our American listeners will know was the CEO of Heinz in the 80s. Specifically for I&M, you were there at a time when it was probably at its best. Is that the best way to describe it?
So I think news media has been challenged for 20, 30 years, right? At least, right? So I won't say I was there at the peak of, let's call it print sales, but certainly we were very much on a digital journey, kind of growing the digital, and really at that transition point between the advertising business model and the premium business model. And that was a challenge and remains a challenge for many news media organizations, because when the internet started, the belief was that news publishers should give their content away for free, and then somehow the ads would pay for it. But that never actually happened. And then it was a bit like trying to get the toothpaste back into the tube, which was how do we now actually start charging people for something that they've been getting for free for 20 or 30 years. And I think it was the CEO of the New York Times said, look, when the New York Times was launched in the 1800s, we knew that people needed to pay for news, to make a viable business model, and nothing has changed. People need to pay for quality journalism to sustain that. So really the transition that we were going through was, really mapping out what the strategy might look like for transitioning to people might start to pay for this kind of news content that we have been giving away for free in one channel. So now, today, if you want quality journalism from that publishing house, then you need to pay for it, regardless of whether you want to consume it in a newspaper, it gets delivered to your door every morning, or it's on your mobile phone or on your desktop or tablet. And the other thing that I guess really attracted me to working with your large publisher was they have access to something that everyone else wants, which is audience.
People,
right? People. And really trying to understand how to monetize that audience is a significant and interesting challenge for news publishers. And I guess in the world that I'm in today, and specifically focusing on for Shopify and e-commerce merchants is, how do we get access to an audience that a news publisher has? Or do we go to Google or Facebook or TikTok or Pinterest? Where do we go to find these people who might be interested in our products? So I guess I'm looking at my career, I've been on both sides of the fence, which is I've been buying media, buying ads for a lot of my career. And then in more recent times, kind of selling media or trying to help people kind of to sell media and to buy it efficiently. So it's just interesting that I personally have seen both sides, and I can see massive inefficiencies in how the marketplace works.
Yeah, and you've seen a lot of change then as well, because you've seen over 25 years. Somebody asked me yesterday on a podcast interview, what's the biggest change that you see in e-commerce? And it's that it's changing. Like it changes now every, it's not an exaggeration to say it changes every 3 or 4 months. Whereas, before, prior to maybe 2019, it was a kind of a 6-month or a 12-month thing. So there's no doubt you've seen a lot of things change. So Brendan, Optily, can you explain to the listeners exactly what Optily does?
So maybe the problem that we set out to solve is probably where I'll start with that. So, and I think everybody knows this problem. You're an e-commerce merchant, and maybe you're sitting together with your team on a Monday morning, and you've spent money and time and energy on Google last week and on Instagram and Facebook, and maybe now you spent a little bit of money on TikTok, or maybe you've dabbled it with Pinterest, right? Or maybe you're buying ads from audio ads, and you're starting to think about that. And the question that you're asking yourselves is, well, okay, what worked, what didn't work, and it's going well, but maybe we're struggling to scale it, right? Because everybody wants to scale, and that's a complex problem because you're spending money across what we call walled gardens. So the data that sits inside of Google's kind of ad platforms and Facebook's ad platforms, it's hard to kind of knit those data points together. You're also looking at different types of customer intent or audience intent. So somebody in Facebook scrolling through a feed or in their stories in Instagram or TikTok is a completely different mindset to somebody who's actively searching in Google Shopping and is kind of looking to buy a product now. And yet we all kind of know that we need to spend money and invest across all of these different kind of what we call placements and platforms. So what we attempt to do is to help people to figure out kind of where to invest their time and money across the customer journey in order to get the best returns. And we do that through a mix of strategies. So we have a playbook around this. We've baked those strategies into a technology solution, so into software which provides you with insights which can be actioned. So we have a recommendations engine that tells you, hey, think about doing something here. And of course, then we have human support because in the end, things are changing so rapidly and your business is so unique that we have a layer of kind of human intervention that can support you.
I recently interviewed an SMS provider, and they kind of sold me on the fact that the human element was a big part of it. Like, is it correct to say there's no way you could completely automate it? I mean, Google is even doing that themselves. Do you see that as a key differentiator between your service and others?
Yeah, for me, this is a kind of a massive learning over the last few years, right? Which is that there's a holy grail. If I'm managing my business and Facebook and Google and all the platforms are selling me the dream that, hey, it's very easy to get up and running and to manage your campaigns yourselves. And actually they're locking things down. So they're giving you less opportunity to tinker, right, with what's going on inside of campaigns.
Yeah.
And so it's very easy, and in particular if you're in Shopify, to launch your sales channels and get everything up and running. So it's relatively straightforward and easy to get spending money on ads in these platforms. And where it gets difficult is when you're spending money across multiple platforms, and you're trying to build your audience base or your customer base, and so you need to go broad, and then you end up, and we all have been here unfortunately, feeling like you've wasted a lot of money, right? Maybe you spent a couple of grand and kind of not really sure what you got from it. So the platforms themselves and our solution working across the platforms, will be intuitive and it'll be easy to kind of get up and running and kind of make things connect. But every business is unique. And what I mean by that is that obviously the product that they're selling, maybe the business model, the brand story is unique. And of course the audiences that they're looking for is unique. And so I guess my realization really in the last kind of year or two is that, yes, we can automate lots and lots of things, but a differentiator, for us at least, and we've seen that people really value it, is that advisory kind of consultancy kind of support, and that doesn't have an agenda. Because I guess from being on both sides of the industry, my gripe with there's very few people in the industry who are not incentivized for you to spend more money. So everybody's incentive is on ads is you spend more money. Typically your agency is incentivized for you to spend more money. The ad platforms want you to spend more money. Yeah. And
that's by default, isn't it? Like
it is, yeah.
Facebook is very good at it. Facebook sends out this email to say, really like what you're doing, click here to book a call with an agent to help you. And when you click to book the call, generally the message on the screen then becomes, oh, well, you're actually not spending enough for an account manager to help you. But they're giving you the perception that, they want to help you. I think the platforms have a big responsibility there. Like even on the Shopify side, it's just very, very easy for merchants to add apps that are chargeable and make changes. And then all you do is go into Google, set up the account, put in your card, and all of a sudden you're spending money, which is exactly what you just said. So people have to be really careful, don't they? Because they can burn budget very, very quickly without thinking about it too much.
Yeah, they can. And look, if you're running you founded a Shopify store, your expertise is probably not digital advertising. Okay. And it's something that everybody's learning, and there's a cost.
There's a cost to it,
yeah. So our operating model is that we're working on the assumption that you want to remain in control. You do this yourself. But you need to learn. So we act as if you like, a trusted partner. In the end, you can receive a full agency-like service from us. Yeah. But actually what our goal is to set you up so that you have software which helps you to understand what's happening. And you have somebody at the end of a video call or end of a chat who can answer questions for you. Yeah. And what we're doing is, if you like, we're playing in the white space between the ad platforms. So many agencies are focused on, making individual campaigns and individual platforms work and getting you to spend more money in there. Whereas we're looking a little bit more agnostically and saying, look, I don't care whether you spend money on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or Google Shopping or YouTube. What's the right thing to help you scale your business? And so that's where we are setting out to be something different in the market than a traditional kind of campaign optimization solution or another ad agency.
If we look at a Shopify store now in terms of the channels to market, they can use Pinterest, they can use AdWords, they can use Facebook marketing, they can use Instagram marketing, they can use SMS, they can use email, they can use WhatsApp. Okay? So, like, it's become extremely complex, okay? If I was to ask you a simple marketing question, you know, like, as of now, what is the marketing funnel for the majority of the customers that you're talking to and talking about there?
So most people start with a staple of their Google Shopping, their sales channel in Google, their Facebook catalog ads, and always critically important to have, you know, email marketing and maybe SMS marketing, depending on your market. And what that will do is get you started, right? And very often we'll see people achieving, with that combination, a ROAS. So ROAS for us is return on ad spend. So for every €1 you're spending, are you achieving €3 in revenue that you can attribute back to that spend? So that's a 3x ROAS. So for example, you might be up and running with Google Shopping campaigns and Facebook kind of catalog ad campaigns, and you're kind of stuck, right? Because maybe you're spending maybe several $1,000s or euros per month. When you start to spend more, the ROAS declines, right? So the efficiency is not there. It's hard to scale it, okay? And why is that? And the reason for that is that when you're in these platforms, if you think of Google Shopping, you're competing on keywords against others in your space, and the more you try to grow it, the more competitive the auction becomes, because all these ad platforms are simply auctions. So you start to try to spend more money, so you bid higher. Then your competitor, who may have deeper pockets than you, bids higher. Yeah. And all that happens is the price goes up, and you don't make any more money, but obviously Google makes more money. Okay. So what we see successful scaling direct-to-consumer brands doing is starting to build out their own funnel strategies. And what that means is, rather than only competing in the bottom of the funnel, right? So where people have clearly high purchase intent. I'm searching for a specific product, and I'm searching in Google, and I see an ad and I see a list of products. And one of the difficulties there is that it's very hard to differentiate yourself, right? Because you can show the image of the product, you can show the name of the product, you can show the price and maybe your brand. And in the end, it will come down to price, right? If it's the products look, or maybe brand recognition, if it's a brand they're familiar with. So what we see successful direct-to-consumer brands doing is starting to invest in their own upper funnel. So maybe using channels like YouTube or Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, and doing a different type of ad. So not doing a product ad, but maybe doing a brand story ad, or highlighting the problem that somebody wants to solve, or the desire that they want to satisfy, or the need that they want to fulfill, and using different formats. So maybe using video content in the Reels kind of section of Instagram or in TikTok, etc. And what they're doing is they're going out to maybe a broader audience, and they're asking the platforms to find them people who are in market for their product, but who aren't actively searching. And why are they doing that? Let's say our product sells for €100, and the cost to acquire that sale is maybe €20 in Google Shopping. Now, if you try and take that type of campaign structure and go to a broad audience, and you don't know that audience is interested in your product or is even in market for your product, then you're out and you're trying to spend €20 to acquire customers in a very broad way. It's going to be a lot of wasted money.
But Brendan, for certain businesses, they wouldn't have the skill set to split all of that up. So how do you do that? How do you construct funnels across various different platforms?
So there's 3 or 4 elements that people need to think about. Okay. So if we start with the first one is audience. Okay. So when you're in Google Shopping or even in Facebook kind of shopping, you're talking to people who have demonstrated high purchase intent. They're actively searching. So I'll give you an example of a client we have who sells a mesh product. They're a well-known brand, and they sell a Wi-Fi mesh, routers and mesh product, right? So if I'm searching in Google Shopping for Wi-Fi mesh for my home, then I'm competing against some very, very big brands, right? And I'm bidding on key terms kind of for them. but the customer has high purchase intent. So you should get, you may get a solid return from that. Now, from an audience perspective, what we want to try and do is go and find people who are not in kind of active search mode, but who are maybe somewhere else. So a really nice example is using YouTube. Okay. So if you can create a 6 or a 15-second video, right, which explains your product, explains who you are, and you can publish that on your YouTube channel and then create an ad from it, then what you can do, because YouTube is part of the Google suite, then you can find people in YouTube who have been actively searching for Wi-Fi mesh products, right? And you can put your ad in front of them in YouTube. So now what you're doing is you're not actually competing on keywords, which is really expensive. You're now buying an audience somewhere else, and it's much more cost effective. Okay. Or similarly, you can go into Facebook and Instagram or TikTok and say, and the reason this works is because their pixels, their tracking is on pretty much every e-commerce platform around the globe. So Facebook knows that Keith is in the market for Wi-Fi mesh. Even though you're not buying Wi-Fi, mesh solution in Facebook and Instagram, they know. And the cost per action to get Keith to watch my 15-second video is probably 1 or 2 cents, right? Whereas the cost per action to get you to click through to my website is probably 15 to 20 cents, and the cost per action to get you to buy is probably 20 euros, right?
Yeah.
So the efficiency in finding you somewhere else and putting my message in front of you, and then seeing if you engage, right, from an audience. So you're somebody who I think might be interested in my product, and if you watch my video, then I put you into a bucket, and I remarket to you with a different type of creative, which says, hey, here's all the USPs of my product. Here's why you should think about my product versus somebody else's product.
Very interesting. Just hold just for 1 second, Brendan, and we'll just hear from our sponsors. Rewind.io is the leading data backup solution for your Shopify store. Did you know that there is no way of recovering lost data in Shopify? If your store is gaining traction, you may have multiple staff or third-party developers entering your store. Mistakes can happen and data can be easily deleted. Rewind.io puts you in control of your data, allowing you to restore anything accidentally lost from a single image to an entire store. It acts as a pretty cheap insurance policy for your Shopify account. At Milk Bottle, we help clients reduce their business risk by installing Rewind in every single store before we make any changes. Get your first month for free by simply replying to your sign-up email. So, Brendan, is there a psychology behind that approach? It's interesting that you mentioned YouTube, by the way. For our listeners that aren't aware, YouTube and Shopify have just announced an integration which will allow you to push Shopify products to your YouTube channel. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't played with it yet, but it's ironic that you're talking about it now because it actually feeds straight in. So, you're looking at it from the funnel management point of view and trying to get, another audience at a different stage in the funnel, whereas Shopify is also, if you're in that area and you're producing the content for YouTube, it'll actually allow you to push the product right in under the user's nose, which is... It's just very, very, very powerful stuff. Is there a psychology behind that funnel approach? Does somebody have to restructure their team to do it? Like, do they have to change their audience strategy? Can you just dig a bit deeper on that?
All of the behavioral studies around shopper behaviors indicate that there's 3 broad stages that people go through on a path to purchase. And it doesn't seem to matter whether the purchase is an impulse instant purchase or something that takes place over several months. So the first thing that people need to do, and we can all resonate with this, I think, which is there needs to be either a conscious or subconscious recognition of, I have a problem I want to solve, or I have a need I want to fulfill, or a desire I want to satisfy. So that kind of recognition stage has to happen. And then once that happens, then the next stage is generally kind of research and evaluation, or assessing your options and information gathering, and just kind of laying out and comparing kind of your various options. And the third stage is the purchase decision. And this is heavily influenced by cognitive biases such as urgency and frequency and social proof, right? So these kinds of things. So what we do with funnels are really just a method for marketers to bring people through those stages of the purchase journey. So if we think of, and this really comes down to creative, right? Creative messaging. So at the top of the funnel, where we're going out to broad audiences who we're using the ad platforms to find us people, hey, find me people who are potentially in market for my product, but they're not at the bottom of the funnel. They're not like in purchase mode. And what we're trying to do with for example, our mesh product, is putting in front of them, hey, you're sitting out in the garden, right? And the Wi-Fi is gone, right? Because the router's at the front of the house. So you're in the creative message at the top of the funnel. We're interrupting somebody's feed in their social feed, and we're telling a story to them. There's an emotional hook usually, and saying, "Oh, I have that problem." So you're resonating with them with the problem that they have, and generally the way to then build an audience from that is then saying, okay, well, anybody who watches my 15-second video, they resonate, right? So we're making assumptions, right? And we put them into a pot, and then at the next stage of the funnel, we're assuming, and this happens all automatically, that they're going to be in research mode, right? So in the next stage of the funnel, they may be seeing longer form video, or maybe what we call carousel ads, which has got different frames in the same kind of ad, and what we're highlighting to them are all of the unique features and benefits of our product and our solution. So it'll be, why is this product better than others? Is it price? Is it certain features? Is it the app? Is it the range? And what do other people say about it? We've got, social proof and kind of peer reviews and testimonials baked in there. And then for people who've engaged with that and maybe they visited our website, they go into another bucket, right? Because now they've kind of done their research mode. They've engaged with our information ads, and maybe they're also on our email list now as well, because they've kind of come to our website. And now the ads kind of focus changes, because they're now in purchase mode, and we're conscious of cognitive biases such as urgency and scarcity, right, and the power of free. So we're now saying to them, hey, buy today, special offer. Actually, we're running out. Stock is limited.
Yeah.
Or if you buy today, here's a special discount that's exclusively for you. Okay. So what we're seeing is this aligning the creative message at each stage of the purchase journey with what we understand to be the psychology that people go through on that purchase journey.
It's funny, Brendan, the way you mentioned YouTube there, just again as your example. There's a very famous newsletter in the States called 2 p.m. I'll put it in the show notes. I've mentioned this guy's name a few times. He's a Twitter handle, and then he has a newsletter. And I remember at the start of COVID, or maybe a few months into COVID, he observed the amount of people that were actually jumping onto YouTube to create content. And as a result of a lot of professional journalists not being able to go to work, and as a result of young, energetic, millennials getting access to, decent cameras and video equipment at a relatively cheap price, the standard of YouTube content, apparently, it actually rose a lot during COVID. And okay. I mean, I'm following the kind of success of a few of them. I mean, it is certainly an area where you can build a business very quickly if you're lucky. Yeah. But his basic premise was that YouTube is now the hub of where a lot of things online start. So in other words, people go to YouTube, create the channel, they get the followers, and then as you referred to earlier on, then they link it to their Shopify store, and then they link it to all of their channels. So, I remember when it opened up first, it was kind of a platform, I wouldn't say platform for rubbish, but there was a lot of poor quality content on it. Mm. And now, again, Shopify aren't moving into it for no reason. It's clearly seen as an opportunity, I suppose, the best way to describe it.
I think we're seeing a massive trend in the last few years. And to be fair, Facebook and Instagram were probably there ahead of the other platforms. But essentially what we're talking about is integrating your catalog, so your product set, into the creative format, right? So Twitter has just announced an integration with Shopify as well. I think it's currently only available in the US.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, right? Which is there's content from somebody who has influence, right, over, or who has a community, and so it's one thing for them to talk about a product and to say, hey, I love this product, it's amazing, right? But then to actually have the product clickable from within that piece of content. And then for that person to receive maybe some financial benefit when that sale happens, right? And then for you as a merchant to be able to attribute that sale back to that, like that's golden for all of us, right? Yeah. Because it means we can close the loop on influencer marketing. We can track things back. We know what part of the customer journey they're impacting on, whether it's top of funnel or whether they're actually driving that sale instantly. So it's very powerful. And YouTube was quite late coming to the party on this, and Twitter is even later, right? Because but it's great they're there now, because it means then, and very often what we call influencer marketing is we feel it's more upper funnel, right? We feel it's more kind of raising awareness, but actually, if you can have somebody who has a following or a community, actually review your product, talk about their experiences with it, and maybe they have a special offer, then it's full funnel, right? Almost in one place. Because it's doing the discovery piece and it's doing the conversion piece in one go.
Well, that's gold, really, isn't it? That's where everybody wants to get to. Are there channels better than others at supporting, funnel strategies? I
think the answer to that question is you probably need to include all channels in your thought process, but some will be better at doing different things. Google Shopping is not the best place necessarily to discover solutions to your problem. So Google in general is great to discover solutions, but like Facebook and TikTok, they pitch themselves as kind of discovery platforms because they have all this data and they know that what you're interested in, and then they put things in front of you. And you see this in action yourself. So you're looking for a pair of sneakers, right? And you end up on some store looking for a pair of sneakers. Or sometimes you just even have to look at an ad for a pair of sneakers that randomly appears in front of you. And you're almost guaranteed for the next, probably 48 hours or at least to see lots and lots of different ads for lots of different sneakers from different kind of providers, right? Yeah. And so that's the algorithms at work, right? And that's a great way for you to discover and see different options and find out things. But you don't search in Facebook or TikTok, or maybe in YouTube you're searching for reviews of particular products and you're looking for videos of how-to videos or recipe videos, etc. You're probably in a different mindset then. You're probably in what we call mid-funnel, which is you're in kind of research and evaluation mode. So what I'm saying is that top of funnel, we very often see the social channels performing very well. So finding people and putting things in front of them that they hadn't thought about. YouTube is particularly good in mid funnel and maybe a little bit more lower funnel. And then these catalog ads in Google Shopping, obviously your brand search in Google is really important. And actually having your catalog, because what the catalog ads are doing across all of these platforms now is if somebody comes to your website and they look at a particular product or they add that product to the basket, and then they don't convert, right? So because 90+% of bold baskets are abandoned, right? So all of those people, it doesn't mean that they're going to disappear and never come back again. It means they're not ready to purchase now. So what these ad platforms are great at doing is understanding, because the pixel is on your website or in your Shopify application. And what they're great at doing is knowing, this is the product that Keith is interested in. So I'm going to just remind Keith about this product kind of for several days afterwards. And, if he still doesn't purchase after 7 or 14 or 28 days, then fine, I'll leave him alone. But what we find is those ads, those remarketing ads to people who have demonstrated high purchase intent on our website, they're the ones that give you the 10, 15, 20x return on ad spend. So you have to do them, right? Because they do drive kind of sales. Okay, so if we loop back around then, just before I move off the whole area of marketing funnel, it's a while since I spoke to anybody about it, and it's a lot to get your head around if you really are starting out, isn't it? Yeah, it is, yeah. And so we've set out to solve a relatively complex problem, and it's got more complex for a few reasons. One is there are more channels available to you. So, for example, if you were just had your Amazon store, right, and you were just spending money with Amazon, it's kind of a closed loop and everything works. Yes, right? Yes. But if you have a Shopify store and you're spending money on Google and Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, and they're all different platforms and channels, so that adds a degree of complexity. The other thing that adds complexity is that maybe you have an Etsy store and you have a presence on Amazon or eBay, and you have your Shopify store. So people might see your ad in one environment, but they're buying on different sales channels, right? And you're happy for them kind of to do that. And the other reason why it got complex, or it has become complex, is privacy has meant that a lot of the data that maybe drove a lot of performance in up until about a year and a half ago, that data is now is more difficult, right? And the platforms have less. They still have data signals, but they have less. They have fewer signals with which to work from. So what we've seen in the last 12 months since or 18 months since the iOS 14.5 updates came from Apple, is that Facebook in particular, performance in particular have struggled, and lots of people are really struggling in terms of whatever they were able to achieve. They've really struggled to try and get back to that. And they're now experimenting with different platforms as a result. And that's one of the problems we set out to solve, which is trying to leverage each platform for what it's good for. And then making sure that you're not putting all your eggs in one basket, right? You have a diversified media kind of plan in place.
So, Brendan, thanks for that. Just before we go, I'll just ask a really simple question then. Is it correct to say then that the customer downloads the Optily app, connects it to their store, and then connects it to the rest of their marketing channels? Is that the way it works?
Yeah, so they connect our app in the store, and it's a free app that gives them if they like an attribution report, so they can see kind of the customer journey inside of the app and what marketing channels, including kind of their email marketing and influencer marketing, that's driving sales. And then with our paid app, then they connect their ad channels. So we start to do advertising attribution and see and start to understand which ad channels are delivering results at the top of the funnel, what's driving more awareness for you more efficiently, what's finding audiences that have a higher propensity to convert. And then we have a layer of kind of human support on top of that. So even if you're on for example, our $99 plan, you get a monthly ad account review. Somebody will look at your ad account in detail on a monthly basis and provide you with actionable recommendations about where you can find some performance improvements.
Fantastic. Well, I never thought I was going to go on to the episode today and learn as much about digital marketing. I mean, that was a great lesson.
Well, thank you, Keith.
So, thank you very much. I seem to say this on every episode lately. The days of just waking up someday and doing everything yourself, I think they're slowly drifting away from people, because all of the platforms have become more complex, including Shopify. It's complex. Google's own tools have become more complex. So, so well done on your concept, and I just want to wish you all the best in the future.
Thank you, Keith. Look, I love the podcast, and thanks for having me on.
No problem. Thanks, Brendan. Take care.
Thanks for listening. All of our episodes are available on Spotify, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. A special note of appreciation goes to our sponsors, Rewind.io, the leading backup solution for Shopify store owners. Get your first month of Rewind for free by simply responding to any welcome email once you sign up for your free trial on Rewind.io. If you're a Shopify user with an exciting story to tell, reach out to the team on podcast@milkbottlelabs.com. Until the next time, take care.